Hey everybody, it's Jeremy, and welcome to a new episode of Sipping with Jeremy. And today we're going to be talking about Tin City Distillery out of Paso Robles, California. And we're going to be talking about their gin, their wine shine brandy, their bourbon, and their rye. I will note that there are more options from Tin City that are available through their website. These are the four that you can find at the wine country. Let's go ahead and get started with the gin. Tin City's gin is corn-based and has herbs and botanicals infused into it. They don't really give you much more information than that. I mean, you can guess that one of the botanicals is juniper, because that's the one rule for gin. But let's go ahead and try it and see what else we can find. So this would definitely classify as a American dry gin, in my opinion. While there is some juniper characteristics here, there is definitely some more of like peppercorn or like black pepper kind of spice here. You get some more lime zest and lemon zest, so a little bit of a citrus kind of combination there. But you're missing kind of more of those sweet characteristics that you sometimes get in gin. So this is much more dry style. Someone who likes a dry martini, this is fantastic. I think this would be really fun in a Negroni as well. It's just super vibrant. It's got a lot of those kind of just like poppy, citrusy notes. A little bit more of that white spice, again, kind of peppercorny spice characteristics that really dry the palate out. And the juniper is there. You can taste juniper, but it is definitely a back note. It reminds me more of a Japanese gin. I mean, the American dry style gin also has this. Sometimes has a little bit more of a orange citrus note, not as much of the lemon and lime. But this definitely has that more kind of spice characteristic that I would identify more with a Japanese gin. Go ahead and move on to the Wine Shine Brandy. The Wine Shine Brandy from Tin City is grape-based and is aged for 2 years. And it's really funny to me, so Wine Shine is actually how I recognized Tin City when Michael Blash reached out to me, interested in tasting with me. So when he reached out, he's like, "Hi, I work for Tin City Distillery. We have SKUs of vodka, gin, whiskeys. I'd like to introduce myself to you. We also do a Wine Shine Brandy line." And I was like, Wine Shine, that sounds really familiar. Why does that sound so familiar? And then Michael came in, him and I sat down, and as we're talking, I'm like, wait, did you guys used to be in a squatty bottle and, a much different kind of profile in the label? And he looks at me, he's like, yeah. And so back in like 2015, 2016, Wine Shine was new. And it was being brought out, and it was super exciting to me because it was a California brandy. And at the time, you had your Saint Germain, but there wasn't really much else out there. So I was excited to see them, and we carried them. And to be honest, they didn't do well at that time. And Michael, after I noted that, I was like, oh, we used to carry these back in like 2015, 2016. His response to that was, well, we've got a lot better since then. And it's funny, as I was getting ready for this video, I was looking through bottles, and I actually found a bottle from the 2015-2016 Wine Shine. So as you can see, much different labeling, different look overall, bottle-wise. They kind of went for that more general bottle so they could fit the other stuff in there too, but very different. And just for fun, I'm sorry this is going to make this video a little longer, but I'm going to taste this, and then we can compare it to what they have now, just to show that, practice does make perfect. That was one of the points that Michael made to me. He's like, we've had a lot of time to practice since, that last bottling you've had, and try the difference here. So let's go ahead and do that in front of y'all right now. So my first note is that this bottle has been open for a while. I don't mean, it's been open for a little bit. It's been open for years. So there definitely can be some characteristics that have pulled out of this, but this is a very spice-forward brandy with the old Wine Shine that I'm talking about here. It is very oak-friendly, meaning that there are a lot of oak characteristics here. There's a lot of baking spice here. You do get some soft fruit here. There is a little bit of an idea of a caramel on the back end, but it is very woodsy. This would be fun in like cocktails. You can do a lot of cocktails that ask for brandy with this, but sipping on its own, it is very woodsy. It definitely pulls a lot of the moisture out of your tongue. It's very spice forward. Let's go ahead and compare that to what they are now making from Wine Shine. This is night and day in profile. As Michael Blash said, Practice does make perfect, and this is a great example of that. So, old wine shine, super spice heavy, super woodsy, a little aggressive. New wine shine, which you can buy now, super soft. It's got a lot more fruit up front. I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine that they went with a lot more of used oak instead of new oak. Just gives a lot more of those softer fruit notes up front. There are still some baking spice notes from the oak. There's still some of that woodsiness, but it is nowhere near as aggressive as it was on the old wine shine. You get a lot more of those rounded kind of, I would say, caramel. There is a little bit of a dark cocoa aspect to this as well, but definitely a lot more fruit on the new one. The new one is something you could sip on. So this is just a fun kind of compare and contrast. Actually, we'll put a link below for the article I wrote that kind of started all of this with the Tin City when I brought it in, is that practice makes perfect. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Tin City Bourbon. Tin City's bourbon is aged for 4 years and has a mash bill of 75% corn, 25% rye. And on the label, it does say that it is bottled in Paso Robles, California, so that would lead you to suggest that it is a sourced whiskey, especially with something like a 75-25 blend. That is something that is kind of more of your standard for a sourced whiskey. That's not knocking sourced whiskey at all. It's expensive to do a lot of this stuff, man. So if you can find someone who can make something for you that you like, then use that as well. The thing that makes Tin City stand out differently than a lot of that stuff is that this is actually 80 proof. So typically for your bourbons, you're getting 90 proof, which means 45% ABV. With something at 80 proof, you can expect it to be a little softer, but let's go ahead and try it and see what we find. So one thing that's an advantage of having a lower proof whiskey is that it is very aromatic. And that does help you, define what your palate is going to taste. So on the nose, there is a lot of anise and rye, and that's the first thing you get on this bourbon, which is really unique. Typically a bourbon that's 75% corn is going to be a little sweeter, but 25% rye, that's almost in the high rye category. You're getting pretty close there. So there's a lot of rye characteristics up front. Again, that anise. But then you get some really nice red apple characteristics. You get some softer caramel. You get a little bit of green apple. So it kind of has that idea of a caramel apple, but you don't know if you're getting a red or a green apple. You get a little bit of sweetness if it's a red apple and the caramel. You get a little bit of a tang and sweetness if it's a green apple and the caramel. You're getting that combination here. So you're getting some sweetness from the red apple, you're getting the acidity from the green apple, you're getting some sweetness from the caramel, and that works really well with that anise and floral rye spice up front, and just creates a really well-balanced bourbon. Let's go ahead and move on to the rye now. The rye by Tin City is the exact opposite of the bourbon. So we're talking about 75% rye here, 25% corn. Let's go ahead and try it. Some people might have gone with the rye before the bourbon, just because the bourbon is going to be a little sweeter since it's corn based. But for me, I think ryes typically can be a little bit too heavy on the spice, so then you kill your palate for what a bourbon can serve. But for this one, it's a really cool transition because you are going to something that has a lot of anise, a lot of fennel, some softer rye spice as well. You do get a little bit of that green apple acidity here too, so that kind of soft fruit but more acidic kind of fruit from the green apple, green pear kind of idea. And then that just leads into some really dry cocoa on the back end, more dried powder cocoa nibby kind of ideas. We're just getting this really dark chocolate kind of profile that doesn't hit the palate for too long. The spice definitely outlasts the cocoa flavors, but there's just this drying kind of effect on the palate. That gives you a little bit more of kind of that dark cocoa with baking spice or, anise and fennel on the back end. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up this episode of Sipping with Jeremy. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our website where you can find all of these products along with a lot more stuff from myself and also my incredible coworkers. I also will be able to put the link for our blog below, so you can check that out as well. That will connect to all of these products here. And yeah, thank you. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy it. Drink well.